When President Trump took office 1 year ago, he distanced himself from Project 2025, that 900-page plan that lays out how the government should run according to conservative principles. But his administration has rolled out policies that closely align with many pillars of the blueprint, including ending diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, launching massive immigration enforcement, and taking steps to overhaul the federal workforce. I want to bring in a Politico White House reporter, Alex Gangitano. Did I get your last name right?
That's right, yep.
Okay, hey, Alex, thank you so much for being here. What are some of the other policies that have made their way that haven't gotten as much attention?
Yeah, so right away we saw the president start to adapt some of this outline of Project 2025. As you mentioned, this is something that was, they separated themselves from this on the campaign trail. We saw Trump and a lot of his top campaign officials say this isn't what we're running on. And then we saw on day one him start to adopt some of that, one including on that first day in office, declaring that there were only two genders, male and female. That's part of this overall kind of cultural overhaul that he was looking to set into motion early on. You mentioned those diversity and inclusion and equity programs. He was able to convince a lot of the private sector to move away from those programs early on into the administration, really shifting a lot of what we saw the Biden administration focused on and what Democrats had been running on, shifting a lot of the focus into more bringing back conservative ideals for a lot of those cultural norms. And then you mentioned the mass deportation efforts. We know that was something that the president was focused on the campaign trail. It was also part of Project 2025. He hit the ground running, implementing that. We're still seeing that going on. And the overhaul of the federal workforce feels like just yesterday we were talking about Elon Musk's role inside the White House. This is, of course, months ago that he left that role, but that was a lot of the early on of the administration's work is overhauling the workforce here in D.C.
So why distance himself from the document if there are so many things, similar goals to accomplish? And what's next for Project 2025?
Yeah, looking back, it's interesting how they ran on removing themselves from that narrative that Democrats were using on the trail, including Vice President Harris herself saying this is something that the Trump White House in a second term would implement immediately, warning that Americans should be worried about this. That's a lot of why we saw the campaign officials on the Trump team saying this isn't what we're running on. This is a separate issue. Now, a lot of these people that helped write Project 2025 are in the administration. They're working for President Trump. They're helping write their policies inside the White House. And so that's why we're seeing a lot of alignment there. And if that was always the strategy, we don't know. But here we are now looking ahead to the new year. I think if we had to, predict what other things will be seen, of course, there'll be more mass deportations. But I think also leaning into some more of those cultural issues and what other areas they can try to change the narrative about.
Alex Gangitano, thank you.
Thank you.